So, welcome back to this channel. Expat community in Japan is growing, and so is the discussion on graduation options for students in Japan. So, to set the context, as you know, social media is buzzing recently with 10th and 12th grade results. So is the case in Japan also. There are always a lot of discussions happening amongst parents here about what are the degree courses options after grade 12th in terms of university for student growing up in Japan. Some parent children have opted for universities in Japan itself, and some outside Japan, like Canada, UK, US, New Zealand, Australia, and also in India. Today, we are fortunate to have Manish Prabhune with us, participating under the capacity of a parent who has been here in Japan for more than 2 decades and whose daughter has opted for a reputed university in India. In today's discussion, it would be our endeavor to understand the journey of his daughter and their thought process as a parent in opting for this university, and also practical aspects like what are the processes, fee, and overall experiences. I'm supported with my co host, Makran. Along with him, we would be getting into the discussion with Manish based on this flow. So the flow of discussion would be as you see on the screen right now. First, background, which we already covered. Then in a short moment, I'll hand it over to Manish for his introduction. Then we will go basically through students' journey and then options for education after 12th standard, then zooming into course, country, and university, then what preparation and other logistics things are required to get into the university. Then we would also like to ask about what it takes for adjusting to the new environment, and in the end, reflections and suggestion towards parents and students. That's how we'll cover the whole session. Okay. So with this, I hand it over to Manish to briefly introduce himself and walk us through his daughter's journey as a student till 12th grade to begin with. Over to Manish.
Hey Prem, hey hi Makran. Nice to meet you, both of you guys. And yeah, it's a very interesting topic. I absolutely can understand that so many of the parents must be going through all of these kind of experiences. But let me just begin with a brief introduction. Myself, Manish Prabhune. As Prem already discussed, yeah, it's been around 22, 23 years that I've been here in Japan, and that kind of was something which I would say like it's not it's pretty wide in terms of like if you are so long in Japan, you kind of try to have a very kind of a different view of what the Japan ecosystem changes you over time. And in that sense, I would like to bring some of my experiences today to you in terms of the different stages that I've gone through in terms of experiencing these pieces for my daughter. um, and I'll also probably give you a few insights in terms of what probably works better in a post-COVID scenario. Okay, so it's something that you have to be absolutely cognizant of as you start planning your kids' journey from here on. So uh, basically, in terms of an introduction, I work for a company called Adobe. They are the makers of Photoshop. So it's usually like we love to help people to fake things. Yeah, I mean like you can create all photoshopped elements on your images and stuff. But no, I think I'll keep the discussion real today in terms of giving you a perspective of my daughter's whose name is Nupura Prabhune, and she is born in 2002, meaning like it's overall 2 decades of journey that began in terms of we kind of getting her into the first batch of the kindergarten of the Global India International School in the Kasai campus, and she was there for all the from kindergarten to grade 12. That's the whole journey that she has spent in that one school. So it's always been with that school that we've seen her grow. We've also had a few of those hiccups in terms of at some times we were looking at options in terms of should we be moving our kid somewhere in the secondary school to something like a K International or any IB focused, curriculums, and that was a discussion which always used to go in our day-to-day life over here in Japan. And we did not look to move to a different school because we had a problem with the school, but it was more in terms of that the other parents in the same ecosystem that we live here in Seishincho, many of them started to go to different schools like the K International and a few Eagle, and there were many other schools that people were migrating to. And we wanted to make sure like she has a critical mass of students who are there in her class, so that she can get a good, a social circle to work around, and also make sure like she has got her, curriculum to follow. What I would certainly say is that we did stay the course. We basically were at a position wherein, uh, what after the grade 12, and should we basically start thinking about it from grade 8, grade 10? And I think every parent probably starts thinking about these things right from the point that they get into the secondary school. So I totally remember that it was a kind of a shock for me when my daughter came to me to say like, oh, you know what, dad, I actually love to do science, and medical field seems to be something that I have a appetite for. While I always basically thought like, I mean, given the fact that I'm from Adobe and I basically in the field of sales and marketing, I thought she would get into some rather cool area like an advertising or something like that. Yeah, so I always
Not.
thought like she's gonna be that, cool kid around. I mean, speaking good English, Japanese, and all of that stuff. But the reason why I say shocked is because this is what usually happens. Is like we basically have our expectation for from our kids, while they have a completely different interest in those pieces. And then it comes down to a very simple fact that then you need to qualify whether the whatever the kid says is really the interest that they are basically talking about, because it could be a fleeting thing, right? I mean,
True.
they could have just seen something, and I knew that she had paid a visit to the Toyo University, which was organized by GIIS, and it was just 2 days that she had been there, and she was like, "Oh my God, I saw this telescope, I saw these organisms," and she was talking all about it. And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, let's see if it wears out," and it did not. And I think, as every parent, I was very happy to understand that although I was shocked with the context of science being her piece that she wanted to continue with, but it did continue even 2 months, 6 months down the line, when she was in grade 9 and 10, she kept on repeating the same thing, that she probably wants to do biomedical sciences is where she started to look at. And I sometimes feel that I'm a little bit lucky that I had to basically kind of go to a position wherein my daughter was very clear what she wanted to do. Prem, net, I think what I would love to say is that as a parent, yes, I absolutely get it that, there is a student journey. I mean, I like it when you say like the child's education journey, but I think journeys are made of moments, and those moments are important to understand that, I mean, where does the interest of your kid lie? Which is that moment which actually tells you or gives
Mm.
you some hints in terms of where the kid is probably thinking, where it basically should, by kind of thinking about its career. And that's a very important point to understand. And I think, I mean, since I'm from marketing, there is a term that we usually use called as moment of truth. I mean, it's about like, is it really the point wherein you should understand that this is where the pivot is in terms of how you need to plan the next steps in terms of which college to look for, which courses to choose and stuff. And it's a dinner table talk that we usually keep on having on our in our families, right? So I think it's a way of a discovery is what I would say. So I think I'm shocked because it wasn't in alignment with what I was thinking. I was happy because the moment was moment of truth in terms of it did lead me into continuity to say that yes, that was the place where my daughter was looking to go to the next steps. So that's where the process began, I guess, in the standard 8 to 10 is where we started to crystallize on the fact that yes, science is going to be the field. It's not going to be engineering. It's not going to be medicine. In terms of like, we asked her like, why would you not be a doctor? I mean, if you are so interested in getting into the medical science field. She said no, she has got very clear understanding that she would love to do, kind of R&D in terms of working in a pharma company, or in a some kind of a biomedical startup wherein she can start doing drug discovery and stuff. And we were like, kind of, where do you get all of that information? And I think the kids are so smart, they are so fast, and they basically learn through what they basically go beyond the curriculum in grade 10 itself. They are on YouTube, they are on Instagram. I said like, who all people do you follow? And I could literally see so many a big list of people in the field of biomedical that she was already following on Instagram. And I think I was like, I would have never thought about like following guys on Instagram with that kind of a background. I'm like, okay, fine. If you want to follow somebody like Ranveer Singh, yeah, I get it. But
Right.
seriously, I mean, medical guys on Instagram, I mean, is that the way the world is around us? And in that sense, like, I mean, this is what is something, I kept on discovering. Like, even today, she basically does so much of that.
I I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, go
really a
ahead.
good one.
Go ahead.
That's really a good one. Like when you said like she was clear in what she wanted to do and she knew whom to follow, and then
Yeah.
she was getting constant inspiration directly from those inspiration. Right. That's really great.
Yeah, and Prem, trust me, I think to a certain extent I can, blame myself in retrospect, saying like sometimes I was trying to help negotiate her to come to my thought process, right? I mean, I was just trying to see how sure she was and how passionate she was. But
Hmm.
I think it's very important that, we respect the choices that the kids make. Of course, we should give them critical input so that they are not, kind of completely left on their own in terms of making that decision. So it's a kind of a navigated process that you certainly need to have. But I think there will be ups and downs, and a journey is always good to go up and down in terms of
Absolutely.
validating your hypothesis. So I think that was a something I say like was a very interesting thing that I certainly had. Now that's in terms of her overall makeup in terms of where she wanted to go. But then I think if you're looking at when we started to come to a few discussions in terms of where should she do it. I mean, like, you've been here for 2 decades. You would love to be kind of having options closer to your place where you are living and where you are born and brought up. And we went through the hoops and loops to understand what are the options that a kid can have when they look for education in Japan. And to be very honest, I don't want to sound, kind of, predisposed in my conviction out over here. But at least what I can tell you as of 2020 is that, I mean, that's still like 2 years back when we made this decision. Is what I can tell you is like at that point in time, things will evolve. But at that point in time, I can certainly say with confidence that for biomedical field, we did not have many options in terms of a bilingual, kind of a course or something that's basically done in English. Okay, so a
Okay.
biomedical course in English in Japan was something which was tough. If you're looking for something like environmental sciences, if you're looking for communications, if you're looking for some commerce courses and stuff, you've got the Wasedas and you've got a few other, kind of universities which can certainly float the boat. And I think there are very good options. If I compare with what was available 20 years back, I think things have changed a lot. So depending on where your kid wants to go, there could be options in Japan. And what I can certainly tell you is that whenever, I mean, given the fact that I do sales for my company, I always think like a salesperson, right? I mean, like, I always look at the cost and what's the ROI. I mean, everything's about ROI, ROI, right? I mean, like, and if you want to look at the cost side of the equation, what I can tell you is like education in Japan would be the lowest side of that. So the cost would be extremely low. Okay, you're looking at somewhere at around like 5 lakh 6 lakh yen. I mean, like, that's something like you would even pay an Indian international school here in Japan, or probably less than that, right? So I think I would say, like, if you're looking at options, we basically went with three options that we were looking at. One was locally here in Japan, which was very, very attractive because that was like the lowest cost in terms of what I have to shell out from my pocket, right? I mean, that's one point. Point number two, um, the second option is, well, why not US and UK? I mean, like, that's like, oh, the Western world, yeah, I probably can do that. And that's a kind of something I'll say is like the other option which you can look at. And I think many of the parents, kind of do consider that as option number one. But the Western universities, they came with the context saying like, cost wise, it was through the roof. Like, you're looking at anywhere at around like, at the bare minimum, like the tuition, this expenses, daily expenses, travel back and forth to Japan and all of that stuff. You would be looking at expenses closely to 6 million was what I was calculating in 2020. But as you guys understand where things stand today with respect to the dollar and yen, you could essentially be looking at somewhere upwards to 7 million is what I would look at. So 7 million, I mean, like, yeah, it's a cost, right? And I mean, what do you get against the cost? I think it depends on every individual's worldview. So if you believe like there's ROI against that, I think it makes sense. I think we ourselves went through the process when we wanted to make sure that she's got all the options on hand, and we opted to go with five universities that you can apply to in the UK. So we went with that process, and she got selected to all of the five. So we did certainly have options in terms of getting admits to Birmingham. We've got Sheffield University, that was a very, very highly ranked university. And I certainly can tell you, like, the brochures that come through the direct mail in your mailbox here, and you pick those magazines and stuff, and you look at those old buildings, and it's like, oh my God, like, am I gonna study here? It's very attractive. I mean, the
Yeah.
way they basically do that, right? But that's how it always is when Tim Cook or Steve Jobs gets onto the podium and tries to sell you an iPhone. Everything looks awesome. You buy it, and after 6 months, you complain that the battery doesn't stay for a day. I mean, that's how the whole thing revolves, right? So that's the option number two. But then there was one option which I don't look at like this is not a priority. It's not like in Japan, West, and then India. For us, like, all of these options were at one shot. We were looking at all the options with equal priority, and I think that is what I believe was somewhere wherein we started saying like, oh, if you're gonna do biomedical, is India even a good place to begin that kind of a study? Are we looking at a position wherein in India we've got that kind of a critical mass in terms of the industry, in terms of educational institutes, in terms of the professional courses? And it was a big challenge, because trust me, I think coming to Japan in 1998, I have lost context of the day-to-day things that have changed in Japan. I can literally tell you, like, my passport can show you around not more than four stamps that I've not gone for more than four times to India in these past 22 years. So I wouldn't even say like I understand India much, right? I mean, it's a very warped reality that you start kind of getting. And to add to the problems, what I was looking at was like, we have other things that happen. Say, for example, in my living room, we have this television going on, and on the Android TV, in the YouTube app, we start looking at Crime Patrol, right? And Crime Patrol tells you like, oh my God, it's so unsafe in India. I mean, like, should I be sending my daughter to India? That's not gonna be the case. But I think these are the realities. Like, I think we need to quit not watching that stuff, but we need to quit judging stuff from a distance. And that basically is something I would tell every parent, that don't judge from a distance, because the old buildings that are printed on the brochures are equally attractive, and the safety concerns depicted through Crime Patrol are also something which are not actual the reality on the ground. So I think don't believe the digital media alone. I think it's more in terms of like, you need to start speaking with people who are actually on the ground there. And what I mean is that, not speak with any Indian. I think I was very lucky that I got to connect with three people who were based in Japan. They have done their long careers in Japan, but have sent their kids to India to learn. So someone was doing his engineering in Pune, somebody was in Manipal in Karnataka, and he was doing his robotics course out over there. And these are the people who have gone through that journey. So I think learning from other people's journey is actually much more real than
Absolutely.
looking at self-serviced content on a web platform, which can sometimes cloud your decision making. Okay, so those were the three elements. What I can certainly tell you, India is not cheap. In terms of cost, as I said earlier, Japan is the cheapest. Obviously, US and UK are they are going to be extremely taxing on your wallet, while India comes somewhere in between. You have to spend money. Trust me, it's not like you send to India because it's going to give you some cheap option to go to. No, it's not cheap at
True.
all. And if you're
True.
looking at going to a doctor's degree or some MBBS or something, trust me, you will be actually spending many times more than what you can even do in the UK.
Right.
So it's pretty costly depending on where you go. And even when we are today working with our kid in Manipal, I think we pay the NRI prices. So they are like kind of five times the fees, five times than what the local kid pays in India. So in that sense, it's something that we certainly went through the loops to understand what the options could be.
Okay.
Now,
So fees
I'm
was
gonna, I'm
5x,
gonna take
5x the normal
I'm
one.
gonna take a pause there. Yeah, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead,
sure,
guys.
sure, sure. 5x the normal one, right? You mean?
Yeah. So the normal kid in India, if he's paying 1 lakh rupees per year per academic year, you're gonna pay five, and I'm just giving you five
Yeah,
times,
yeah,
so you're gonna pay
just
five
a
lakhs.
rough. Got it, got it.
If the thing is gonna be like, okay, the locals are gonna pay two, you're gonna pay 10, and that's how it goes.
Sorry to interrupt. So, in terms of the universities in the Western world,
Yeah.
for those universities as well, did you speak with any people who are doing some research or whose kids have studied there, or did you get, like, for
Yes.
example, Birmingham or Sheffield? What type of
Yeah.
background
So
you
I
had
can
for
tell
that?
you, like, we basically spoke to the seniors of Nupura who were in GIS and ISJ,
Hmm.
and also people who have been to other, schools like the one in Hero and the K International and all of that stuff. So we did speak to those parents and those kids too.
Okay.
It's always good to get that reality. How did we come with that definition? Like Sheffield could be one of the good universities. I mean, you can't just
Right.
believe the university rankings, right?
No,
Because that may not
no.
be the only way to
Yeah.
go about it. So we spoke with one friend of hers, Simran, who was basically, in Sheffield at that point in time, and that allows you to get connected with the sometimes the staff in that college who
Hmm.
can actually answer your queries better. In
Yeah.
today's COVID world, they are absolutely responsive on emails and chats and stuff. So I think that was something that she did a lot. I think we should certainly try to reach out and try to understand as many things as possible in
Hmm.
terms of what that university's got. I mean, and there are some serious issues. Say, for example, we came to know like the drug abuse it was high,
Oh,
and you need to make
Hmm.
sure like I mean, it looks a awesome university, the ranking is very high, the course is awesome, but then the friend on the ground tells you like these are some things that you shouldn't worry if you are not going to be part of those problems, but then you are in that kind of a university, you are in that kind of an environment, and you need to figure that out.
Definitely.
And trust
As a
me,
parent, definitely need to know the pros as well as cons, and then
right.
especially
absolutely, and trust me, I think I mean,
three, 4 years.
same goes for even India. I mean, even in
Yeah, as
Manipal
well.
University, there are gonna be cases once in a while reported in the press, right? So
Hmm. Hmm.
उसके बारे में कितना सोचना है? How much should we think about it? I think that's something that is individuals will, but I think you
Yeah.
should be at least cognizant of getting information beyond the course. I think mostly what happens is like we look at the brighter side of the equation, which is a good thing, but then I think we should also look at what are the other points that we should be considering, because trust me, at the end of the day, your kid is gonna go as as an individual, probably staying away from the family for the first time, and you
Absolutely.
need to
Yeah.
prepare them mentally to make sure like they are up for it. They wouldn't have to depend on other things in terms of the usually the safe environment that family in Japan provides to them. So I think those are some real concerns. Some
Yeah.
I've seen cases wherein people have got homesick, people who have gone under depression. Sometimes I've even seen parents and kids going through that hoops and loops to figure out, like, oh, the expenses are so high that there is pressure put on the kid to perform and this and stuff, which sometimes creates friction in a family. And then you don't know how that kid is going to react when it's going to be so far away from you. They might not
Mm.
expose everything that they might, and they are very good at concealing on a Zoom call or on a Teams call, right?
Mm.
So I think these are the realities which we certainly looked at. Like, if it was Japan, it's the best of all the worlds. You get good cost, good ROI. I think, but the only caveat comes in, like, if your kid is already born and brought up in Japan, you would want to think, like, has the kid got enough exposure? I think what people look at is, like, not because Japan is not good or bad, or, I mean, that's a judgmental view. You can't just generalize one single country like that, right? I mean, there could be very good courses and some very good things, but then I think people want exposure, and they then say, like, okay, let me send them to a different paradigm. Let them look at the Western way of thinking. Let them look at an Indian way of thinking. So I think that's how we started to go to that route. Like, yeah, India could be one option. Okay. Now
Okay.
I'll just basically spend the next 2 minutes, Prem, in terms of giving you a little bit more on what India, how India, and why India. Okay, so I'll get a
Yes.
little bit more on that side, but I'll pause for a moment. If you have any questions at this stage, I'm more than happy to actually get more questions. I think that would make it more interactive for us.
Okay. I think no, I think you have covered the ground quite clear. Like this was the section where we wanted to understand, like, when you start this journey, what scenario you start looking at, right? What is the picture you are looking at? And I think you painted it properly, saying, like, for us being in Japan, default is Japan. We start thinking from there. Then, of
Yes.
course, the other popular thing is, yeah, oh, why not West? And
Yeah.
then we start thinking about, okay, there are other options also. We have done our own education from India. We still believe in that education system. Why not India also, right? And then you start. So I think now the picture is clear. Now I think it's a segue properly. Like, start. How did you zoom in? I think course wise, the Nupura
Sure.
has selected that, understood. But now more about the country, as you said, why, where, and what about
Yeah, yeah,
India. So
certainly,
that would be
certainly.
great.
But
Makaran, if you want to add anything.
No, I think this is good.
Okay.
So I think most of the students are first of all confused in terms of what to do after
Hmm.
12th grades. So I think Nupura had already decided based on her research that she wants to pursue biomedical science.
Hmm.
So that was a major decision. But in spite of that, as we understand talking to Manish, there's so many several other factors to consider as to where to study, or which university, which country. So yes, so it's interesting, and yeah, so we look at now for some
Okay.
zooming. Yeah.
Perfect. Over to you, Manish. Back.
so Prem, I think let me just give you a lighter side of this discussion. Okay. Um, so okay, let me begin at the point in terms of, like, how do you get all of this information? I mean, how do you begin? I mean, like, you are doing your career here, as a salaryman here in Japan, you're literally working your day, like, from 9 to maybe evening times. You're still continuing doing your work and stuff. It's sometimes very tough to get time to kind of do some due diligence or do some discovery in terms of which are the universities, what are the options, and it comes down to what the kid can do by themselves
Hmm.
and what the parents can help them in that process. So I think the second part was that, if I mean, if I give you a measurement of sorts, I would say, like, my wife was instrumental in around 80% of the discovery and research and the information gathering in terms of what was Nupura looking into, what were the options that she was considering, and then validating those options. So I think, thanks to Shilpa, my wife, whatever Nupura was digging out and kind of bringing in terms of information to us, she was first helping her figure out a lot many things, and I was spending maybe 20%. So it's like, kind of, oh, I'm the final manager, nothing of that sort. But I think, I'll tell you how immature things can get. And the lighter side of the discussion is that it came to me in grade 11. that Nupura and Shilpa came to me to say that, hey, you know what? There's this amazing university called as Manipal University, and that could be one of the options. And I don't know why, but somehow I thought Manipal was some place in Sikkim. I had no clue as to what Manipal was, where it was. There is some Manipal Sikkim University, some ad that I had seen somewhere. And I always thought like Manipal was part of Sikkim, and I was like, oh my God, this is Northeast. Like, what are we gonna do? I have no idea. Is that a good place to go? I understand it's close to the Chinese border. I mean, you think of anything and everything, right? I mean, like, those are not unwarranted things that you're thinking in that sense. But what I essentially want to say was like, it was a pleasant surprise to figure out that Manipal was somewhere just next to Mangalore. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is based in Karnataka. And the reason why I'm trying to say this is because we believe that we know a lot about our own country, but then it's so wide. And, a
Absolutely.
simple
Yeah.
word like Manipal was something that completely, disrupted my thought process. So I went through the hoops and loops to figure out like what this university was, to figure out that, okay, so Mr. Satya Nadella of Microsoft is a graduate of this university. Okay, well, that's another data point that I can start looking at. But this was not the only university that we thought about. So, what we wanted to get for our daughter was something that we started to say, like, okay, is she okay to basically go to a metropolitan city like a Mumbai, wherein she could be literally be squashed in a train for maybe 1 hour just to reach to the destination that she probably wants to go to? I don't think we wanted her to have that kind of an experience at all. So we said like what works best for her, given the fact that she spent 18 long years here in this kind of a serene environment of Edogawa Kusei Shincho, a second tier city looks good. But the university's got to be the best. I mean, we certainly can't, do any, kind of, you can't play with that. I think you need a very good university, but you also need to that to be in an environment which was much more conducive to what she's used to back here in Japan. I think that is where we ruled out all the universities in Delhi and Chennai and stuff, because we were not so sure whether we wanted to go to that kind of a. They're not even metros; they are like kind of megapolis is what I would look at. So these were like kind of like you sometimes get lost, and we wanted to make sure like we wanted to have a little bit more of a settled lifestyle for her. So Manipal was one. We still were okay with on the outskirts of Bangalore. So there was another college which I mean that name just doesn't come to me very quickly. I'll certainly let you know that. Makran, if you can probably Google a women's college in Bangalore, it's a pretty famous one. And I think that was one more thing that we certainly did evaluate for her. Third, which we basically looked at, was Pune, wherein we applied to a college called as Ferguson College in Pune,
Ah,
and that was one more thing that we certainly looked at. There was one more thing which was IIT Hyderabad. There is a biomedical course even out over there, but then we were sure like the IIT has got a different process, so there was an element that if we have to go to India, we will have to be with that country's process, right? I mean, you have to give a IIT JEE. And given the fact that my daughter is already trying to just run through the daily, grind here for the CBSE course that she was having here, again attempting a JEE was something which we believed was investment of time and investment of energy also. And we said like, no, we are going to choose the right horses to ride on. We are not gonna go to IIT as of now. If we have to take the IIT option, she can take a break here after her 12th, give an IIT JEE, and if she clears that, then she can go to an IIT. No worries at all. So what we essentially were trying to say was like, let's not basically crunch too many things into that one single year of grade 11 and 12,
right.
wherein there are so many things to do, because you have to apply for the UK colleges, you have to apply to the US ones, you have to also apply to some universities in Japan, and you also need to do something for India. I think it's stretching yourself too thin. So we were sure like as to what are all those pieces, like we filter out that we are certain not gonna do as of now. And I think we filtered out IIT as an option in grade 11 itself. We said like it's too much of a time investment. It's agreed that it's the top-notch college that you've got in there, but then if you have to get there, yeah, we can certainly do that. But then why not basically take a drop year and a break year, not a drop. A drop year has a negative connotation
Yeah,
for some. I don't know why. But a break year could be something that you could basically go to an IIT kind of a situation wherein you could plan to be there. And I can tell you one thing, I'm just skipping a few things here, but what I can certainly tell you is like all of these IITs have got biomedical courses that they even do online these days. So Nupura did one of those courses for a month last year when she was doing her first year in Manipal. So
oh,
she also got that IIT exposure in that sense. I mean, it's all about collecting different certificates and preparing your,
absolutely.
right? So yeah, so we basically went to these four colleges. We basically thought that the College of Manipal was something which was a very small university town. I'm not sure if everybody knows, but it's one of the highly dense mobile networks in India. It's number one. So the maximum number of mobile phones in a particular locality in India is actually Manipal. I mean, they've got over 8,000 students studying there. I mean, it's a huge campus. And I think the reason why I'm quoting this is because we are so used to basically sending an iMessage or immediately FaceTiming our kids and seeing their face the moment that we want. You want to make sure like you have got all those infrastructural capabilities in terms of electricity, water, the cellular networks, and something that needs to be there as a given for us, right? And I think
Absolutely.
Manipal fit that bill. I think we were very
Okay.
comfortable when we saw those pieces in terms of it was a very, very well to do in terms of infrastructure. The college actually helped us because the moment we said like we are an NRI, they basically took us down a very different path. They basically showed us what are all the facilities, amenities that are there for NRIs. So there are hostels for Indian students, there are hostels for NRIs. And I think those hostels resemble anything close to a 3 star or a five, I wouldn't say a five, but at least a 3 star hotel. I mean, like they've got like granite floorings, the bathrooms are awesome, and I think there is nothing that you can complain about. I think the only thing probably you would be complaining about is not having a heated toilet seat, but you wouldn't need a heated toilet seat in Manipal when it's always going to be humid and a little bit, kind of hot, if I have to say that. So in that sense, I think you don't really miss any comforts. I'm not saying luxuries. It's about having the regular comforts that you're used to, and I don't think we were ready to make any compromises on that. So I think we don't want to give our daughter a Ferrari to drive to the college, but certainly the comforts in terms of having good food, clothing, and all those areas of kind of going for a regular shopping and stuff like that. I think Manipal was extremely good discovery that we basically got to know.
Okay.
It's not the only college which has all of these stuff, but then I think we were very happy that the college was well equipped to handle not just local population but also the NRI population, which I'm not sure of the numbers, but at least the university advertises it at somewhere around 23% of the students on the campus are coming from places like Dubai, some coming from Singapore, my daughter coming from Japan and stuff. So it's a mixed crowd that you get there, because there always will be a different way of how a regular kid who goes through the grind in a Indian society thinks, and how kind of a little bit kind of a supported kid in Japan thinks. I mean, there is a
Yeah.
difference in the way kids think in different contexts and different cultures. And although we know that internet has leveled out a lot, there are still some essential differences. And I think we wanted to make sure like we get her into an ecosystem which was not complete local population, which was gonna be the case if we would have chosen Ferguson College in that sense. because Ferguson College was all about local Indian, kind of population out over there. We come from Pune, so that's the reason also why we selected that one as one of our option. But it could have been a complete local immersion, and I think Manipal wise we were lucky because we got to get into a little bit of a NRI and local population space, which is much more conducive to see different patterns of thought that she basically loves to even today, given the fact that she's already 2 years there. I think she's certainly enjoying that side of the equation. So I think
Yeah, it's a
Manipal,
very
how did we come to
point.
that? I think that's the detail. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead, Mak.
No, I think that was a very important point that, I mean, children like Nupura who have been brought up all their life here in Japan. And so basically when they go to India for studies, there is already some culture shock in a way that, they have been going to India once every 1 year, 2 years on vacation, but that's mostly for 1 month or at the most, right? So I think
Exactly.
growing up here and going back for full-time education, I think that probably as parents, we cannot, correlate much because we have stayed in India a lot of years and also in Japan a lot of years. So, but for the children, I think it's a culture shock.
Yes.
So I think,
Yes.
yeah, as you mentioned, I think if we have taken care of other factors in terms of having a good infrastructure and hostel facilities, etc. So that they can basically focus on studies. That's what
Yeah.
is the end goal. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree
Yeah.
on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And trust me, I think uh, culture shock, yeah, I absolutely get it. I absolutely understand what you're trying to tell me. It also comes down to, kind of how the upbringing of the kid happens in individual homes, right? I mean, like everybody's got their own individual tastes. And I think it was a sort of a coincidence, is what I can say. It's like, I think we basically always had, what's that? Tarak Mehta Ka Ulta Chashma. I think they basically talk about they got a punchline. They basically say like asli maza sabke saath aata hai. And I think if that kind of media is continuously going in your home, you're watching it maybe for 1 or 2 hours every day, and the kid is exposed to that kind of thing, then that culture shock can actually be absorbed at a little bit different level. I think it's all about how you basically bring up your kid, what kind of values do we tell our kids, and there is no right and a wrong value. What I'm only saying is like the kind of upbringing gives you a direction in terms of where your kid's gonna be. And I think if you basically watch Tarak Mehta, and if you allow your kid also to watch BTS, which is K-pop, which my daughter loves a lot, and she's watching a few Western, stuff and all of that, she's basically somebody who can actually gel with any of those backgrounds. I think if we had to make a choice by going to UK, she would have certainly had some culture shock even in the UK side of the equation. Trust
Yeah,
me, if
definitely.
she would have gone to a Japanese university, although she's born and brought up in Japan, she was still with an Indian school out over here. She would have a different culture shock if she would have gone to Japanese. So I think the culture shock's always gonna be there. It's just that we have to bring up our kids in a way wherein they are able to, kind of have that inclusive element that they can start, kind of getting different patterns and adjust accordingly. I think contextual thinking is something that comes sometimes naturally to kids who are in India because they see very, very different patterns in the society. In Japan, we are somewhat, kind of isolated. So I think we need to build as parents that kind of a perspective that, you need to go with the flow, adjust with what comes, because not everything will go the way you want it. And it will happen with every different pattern that you will go. Whether you go to a US, UK, whether you go to India, it's
Yeah.
always going to be there.
Right. Right. I think you summarized it well, Manish, by saying like we don't want to give Ferrari to our kids, but at least those basic support system we want to ensure, and that comfort zone at least has to be there in terms of the continuation of the lifestyle they have been living here.
Yes.
It's not like asking too much thing, but it's like basic
Exactly.
things which we are asking.
Yeah.
One last question on this slide I want to ask is you talked about how you striked out IIT or Pune's
Yeah.
college. How about this women's college in Karnataka? How that went out of the list?
Yeah. So what I can tell you is like we applied to both of these, rather we applied to all the three of the above. Manipal, the college in
Okay.
Karnataka, and Pune, it's
Okay.
Ferguson college, applied to all. We basically got admits from two, one Manipal and the college in Karnataka. Okay,
Okay.
so I think Mount Carmel was the second college that we certainly had looked upon. So we applied. We got admits in two. We got admit in Manipal. We got admit in Mount Carmel, and we did not get the admit in Pune's Ferguson College, and that's something that you have to consider when you apply in India. Manipal College and Mount Carmel are private institutions. They've got NRI quotas and everything, stuff like that. While Pune is just I mean, Ferguson College is like open category,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like they basically said like in the open category there are only 5% seats available. The rest are all reserved for X category, Y category, or whatever that
Got
is.
it.
And the only 5 people who were admitted had scores at 98% or 97%, while Nupura was at 94. So at 94% you don't get admits in India. That's the reality. So that's the reality that we have. Everybody has to look at. But I think the top two were the ones wherein in Manipal and in with Mount Carmel, we certainly got those admits. Now I'll tell you one piece out over here. Um, Basically, what I can certainly tell parents in Japan is that in a post-pandemic, in an after COVID, I shouldn't say after COVID, after vaccine, we don't know how it's gonna end. So in an after vaccine world, is what I would say, is that it's good to have options. What I'm essentially trying to say is like you might plan for going to UK, and we've seen like many people got admits in UK, but then they went into a blended system of learning wherein they said like, oh, you could actually sit in Japan and join over a Zoom call.
That
And I
happened a
think
lot. Yeah.
that's like kind of like, okay, am I paying
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paying through the nose to get this stuff, and am I getting the ROI? That's where the ROI starts kicking in, right? But I think what I essentially wanted to say was like having options is not so that you are guaranteed of an option when you actually want to execute. No, 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 no. What I'm saying, having an option on hand in grade 12 will completely remove the pressure point from your kid. Is she gonna get an admit anywhere? Because trust me, when you move from grade 11 to grade 12, because it's for the first time in your life that as a parent you're going to apply for your kid, and as a kid they are going to face the universities for the first time, you always feel that you're probably not going to get an admit to begin with. I mean, it would be quite complex. You don't want to have that fear of missing out. Like everybody wants an option in hand as a, oh, mere ko ek mil gaya, I got one of that, right? So I think we basically looked at the Manipal option because they were very early in the application process. Before rather, the moment she began her grade 12, they were very clear that, okay, you pass with these pieces, then you give this examination, this, and if all of that goes, then your admission is guaranteed. So I think getting an option on hand as early as possible is always a good thing to have, so that you are rest assured of at least one option on your hand, and you can start concentrating on your grade 12 examinations and preparations, so that the problem of what after grade 12 is basically out of the way. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that's one thing which I will certainly tell people to give a consideration on that side. And what
Manish,
I can tell you is,
when you say, sorry to interrupt, when you say start early, is it around 11th you already
I
planned
think
or?
as you start finishing your grade 11, what
Okay.
I would say is like it is advisable that before you finish your grade 11, uh,
Hmm.
try to finalize 5 universities in every country that you want to apply to.
Hmm.
That's step number
Right.
one.
Okay.
Secondly, what can you also finish off as a check mark on your to-do list is giving IELTS and giving your TOEFL. I think in grade 11 itself, Nupura completed her IELTS and TOEFL in the month of February. So Feb was the time when she had done it. That allows you to have a 2 year time from then on when the scores are valid. So I think completing those tasks in grade 11 itself is a good way to do. And if even if you
Hmm.
want to get your kid to a Japanese university,
Hmm.
finishing off your N2 and all of that stuff within your grade 11 itself will remove all the pressure points of what a kid has to
Hmm.
go in the grade 12. I think begin early in grade 11. That's
Hmm.
certainly helpful. Finalize universities, give a few of those examinations and stuff, and remove them off from your to-do list. I think that was something we did. IELTS and TOEFL, both of them. We were absolutely very lucky to finish them off in grade 11 itself.
Got it. Got it. I think that's a very important point. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those qualifications will touch, most of the universities all over the world. So they would need
Yes.
English
Yes.
proficiency or any other, common.
And now I'm going to give you one, a pitfall. Okay. Uh, Trust
Okay.
me, this is something that, in hindsight, I always think that I could have handled this better. And the one thing which I certainly believe was something that, put a little bit of a pressure on my daughter was that you need a kind of a essay. You need to write an
Hmm.
essay
Hmm.
in terms of your application process.
Hmm.
Like, okay, I basically have got this background. I'm so passionate about what course I want to do. I see that your university is doing XYZ, and I would love to be part of that discussion. I would love to be part of that course. It's a standard format. You could go to a grammarly.com or any other website. They help you with all the English corrections and stuff. They give you patterns in terms of how to better write an essay. But trust me, I think I put my daughter in grade 11 itself to the process to say that, okay, write a good essay. And I think kids sometimes are clear what they want to do with which course they want to do, but putting that down on a paper, I don't think we should follow it up too much. I think if you
Hmm.
try to push the kid too much to get a very good written essay,
Hmm.
uh, it basically put my daughter through a little bit of a, what I would say, through some irritation to say like,
Hmm.
it can be done in grade 12. I mean, why are we pushing so
Hmm.
much to do
Hmm.
stuff in grade 11 itself? But the whole point was like, when she went into grade 12, when she had actually had to apply, she figured out like, oh, my essay is already ready. So it's good to be prepared, but I think let's not put too much emphasis on getting a good essay, because trust me, I'm not even sure whether the universities read those essays for an undergraduate program. They matter for a post graduation, they certainly matter for a PhD, because that's something how you basically are going to work in their laboratory and all of that stuff. But at an undergraduate level, I think regular essays written are good enough.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't think they read at a very detailed level for all of those, myriad number of applications that come to their table. It's just
Hmm.
a tick mark that they basically have. Like, there is a decently written essay, good to
True.
go with. So
True.
let's not put too much emphasis. I think probably we wasted around 20 days wherein she was writing something, the wife was checking once, and then I was reviewing it again, and I was changing a few things. And there is no right and wrong way to write an essay, right? But I think
Yeah.
too much emphasis was spent on it. I think it's
Perspectives. Got it. Got it. Thank you very much. I think what you just covered is overall, like, how did you write from selecting India to
yeah,
coming up with the options in India and then drilling down to one
yeah,
university, one place. I think that is covered in a very good way. And along with that, you also talked about what you should complete till grade 11, right? You talked about
yes,
IELTS, TOEFL, and N2. I think those are also very good points. Okay, so if that's fine, we can move towards more specifics of like for this. Now,
sure,
university is selected, place is selected.
yep,
Now, we'll talk about more about what preparations are required. You partly talked about some preparations, but we can retouch those points specifically in terms of admission procedure,
yeah,
fees, duration, post grad, and other career pathways. What you
sure,
might
sure,
be
sure.
going through that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is something that you actually spend more time than the earlier preparation side of the discussion that we have had. I think you need to look at it from what I need to do in grade 11 and grade 12 in terms of my next quarter, in terms of like trying to say like, oh, I need to prepare these kind of certificates. I need to do that kind of a procedure. That is all is fine. But then I think this is a journey about education, and it's
Mm.
about like what is in store in terms of the, you know options that you basically get once you're gonna be a graduate, right?
Mm.
What are the career kind of pathways that you basically have in terms of not just a job, but if you wanna also look at getting into kind of multiple activities, because you want to go with like-minded individuals, right? You want to make sure you are with that kind of a framework.
Mm.
And does the country or the university have that kind of a critical mass of people around that ecosystem? So what I can certainly tell you is that when we finalized that, yeah, India could be a good option, we did not say that just go for your graduation and then we will figure out again some other options. What if you also need to do your post grad in India? What
Hmm.
if you are supposed to look at a 1 year career in India to just get some experience first in the
Hmm.
ecosystem, right? And I think let's be very 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 upfront on these pieces. Is like it is a little bit wishful thinking that, oh, I will get graduation for as a degree in India, and then I'll come to Japan, and then I'll probably will start applying and I'll land some job. It doesn't happen like that. It
Hmm.
really doesn't happen like that. I think you need to be realistic that you may not land a job here, and there are reasons behind it.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is like there are objective and subjectives in this discussion. When you do a course like a robotics or an engineering course or a computer engineering, or you do biomedical engineering or biomedical sciences for that matter, these are objective courses. They are
Hmm.
basically universal. Okay, they are based on logic. They are based on the premise that what works through a data driven approach for your experiments will be universal. You will do the same experiment in Japan, you will do the same in India, and you will do the same out over there. But if you are into things like filmmaking, if you are into architecture, if you are in other places where Nupura's friends were trying to say like, oh, you know what, I want to be in law. I mean, these are subjective matters, because they depend on a particular country, they depend on a particular economy, they depend on a particular region. A language also sometimes comes in. So if you want to study architecture, and if you choose to go to UK, as one of the friends of Nupura went, you are essentially learning the Western architecture, and then you need to be sure like, is that the field that you want to do, or do you want to go back to India and do something different, or are you more interested with the Japanese architecture? So it's very very contextual, right? So I think when we choose these pieces, let's be sure like what are the post graduation options, because that's gonna define the trajectory for your kid absolutely, right? So I think if you are in objective sciences side of the equation, things are a little bit easier, because if you get a computer degree, it works everywhere. I mean, you can program in Java, you can literally do Java programming everywhere. I think
Hmm.
that's something that you have to look at. Otherwise, you are trying to look at going back to a different country, and because of the context, you have to sometimes relearn the things. Sometimes you do your medical MBBS in India, and it's not going to work in Japan. You can't say like, I'll become a doctor in Japan. That's not going to be the case. I mean, you have to redo stuff. You can't even be a doctor with that degree even in the UK for that matter. So I think you have to first evaluate like, is your study field objective one or a subjective one? If it, does it depend on the context of where you studied it, is going to determine as to where your postgrad and career pathways are going to be. And in case of my daughter, at least, biomedical sciences, the field that she's chosen, was something wherein at least I can say like, if she learns the basic protocols of drug discovery, they will help her in India, they will help her in Japan too. So a pharma company in even in Japan would follow the same protocols with
Yes.
drug discovery
Yes.
and stuff like that. So give a thought to that in terms of which country to choose, because that is extremely important to define which career pathways are open for you later.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I'll double click on the part of the overall admission procedure.
Hmm.
Admission procedure in India can be a pleasant or a not so pleasant experience depending on where you apply, and everybody can have a very very different experience. Swadanusare ho. So what I'm trying to essentially say is like, if you go with a Manipal side of the equation, or even when we went to Mount Carmel, we found that the admission process was a breeze. Okay, while with Ferguson College, you call them, you write mails to them, you had no freaking clue of where you stand. Okay, so it could be very very different in terms of how you basically negotiate that. With Manipal and Mount Carmel, I can tell you for sure, like everything is online. I think every minute detail is available online. They also connect you to their alumni and stuff, so you can speak with those folks. I think that's
Okay.
something very very helpful to get that kind of a discussion. We asked like, are there events happening there, are there exhibitions, are there seminars, and those kind of speaking opportunities. I think everything was made available to us even before we landed once in Manipal. Okay, so I think all of that thing was absolutely something that I was very very happy with the inputs that I got. With
Okay.
Japan, make sure that you should be extremely fast and extremely responsive to your mails. Japanese universities respond only on mails. They are hesitant to pick up calls. They can speak to you, but they will certainly say like, whatever you are requesting me, please send me a mail again. Okay, so and once you got their attention, make sure that your response is very quick, because that if you have a little bit of a kind of a drop in the
Mm.
frequency of the communication, if your mail is running, you have not replied to it for 2 days, trust me, then again things have to be worked out to get that attention. So I think be a little bit fast with your responses on emails with Japan, but email is the only way to go. With UK, there is no chance of any email with any university. There is a very, very standard process of how you apply in the UK. There is a portal, it's centrally managed. And so, like, you get an option of 5 universities that you can apply to. This is a standard portal which you have to go through. Everybody goes through that. You have to upload all your responses, your essays, your marks, and everything through that one single portal. And it's a one single platform which allows you to go pan across in the UK to apply to all of the universities out over there.
Okay.
It's a I've never seen so well managed process at a country level, wherein everything is at one single place, and the experience that a parent experience is so amazing that everything is digital, and you don't need to pick your phone even once to ask why this, what should I do here. If you figure out like, oh, okay, but by the way, this is going to be CBSE, what grade does that mean out over there, all of those things, there are good help forums, you can write your questions on those forums, people respond back, and it's absolutely a digital experience that you can look forward to. So hats
Okay.
off to the UK guys. I think
For
everybody should
international,
emulate that.
right? Is that specific for international students, the
Yes.
centralized
Yes, it's a
admission portal
centralized.
in
It's a centralized portal. It's called as UCAS. UCAS. UCAS.
UK?
So UCAS is the only way you can get into the UK universities as an international student. There is no
And
other
that
way
is
to get.
irrespective of any course, not just biomedical, but other courses
No,
as well.
any course, any university across the United Kingdom, UCAS is the only way to go. Okay, and
Right.
it's one
And
of the best
Japanese
experiences that I have
universities, you mentioned about Japanese. May I know which Japanese universities did you consider for Nupura
We
for?
went with Nagoya because they've got a very good biomedical course in English. But the number of students that they basically taken from the ones who are in Japan is maximum 1 to 2 people only. And that kind
Oh,
of is a very, very low number of students that they admit. We did consider Osaka University. We
Hmm.
did consider Ritsumeikan. We did not get a biomedical course, but I think they have started a new course in Tsukuba University also. So that's one
Okay.
more of the options that you can look at. We also looked at Kansai Daigaku, but
Hmm.
they claim to have an English course, but we got some information in reality that, uh, well, the professor comes in, he tries to speak something in English, and then he reverts back to something in Japanese, and then it's a kind of a mixed thing, and we didn't get very good reviews of that. Actually, the
right.
university is very highly rated, but at least from a biomedical perspective, I don't think they are ready with their English course offering as of now. So try to figure out the reality. How much do the Japanese universities really do English education?
Hmm.
Extremely important to validate that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Manish, one more query on Japan university side. There is also this kind of notion of that if you have a PR, that
Yeah.
might be a hurdle in actually getting the admission as compared to if you are actually applying from India. Is that right?
Uh,
Or
so it's all market demand and supply. So if they are going to get enough, supply of students from India or from outside Japan, absolutely it was a detriment. We were not even allowed to apply to a few universities because we were a PR holder. Yes,
hmm.
that's absolutely the case. That was there in 2020, 2019 when Nupura was
Okay,
in
there
grad.
was.
Now, 2020, what happened was that because of the borders getting shut down, there
Hmm.
were a lot many vacancies, right? And then they were like, oh, we actually welcome PR. So the situation suddenly changed for 2020 and 2021. But
Right.
with 2022, I have heard again some discussions wherein the PR is again becoming a problem. So it really depends on the time when you apply, what is the social, context that we are in. If they have enough supply coming in from outside, they say, oh, we actually got enough of those kids coming in, so we are good. But in case of a COVID situation, they were like red carpets for PR holders. So the
Hmm.
things could be very different.
And when you say PR holders, this is PR holding for the kid or for the parent?
No. It's a PR for the kid.
For the kid, right? Okay, got it.
Yes, for the kid.
Thank
So
you.
you could have a situation wherein to, bypass or skip the stuffs. I mean, you could look at like, oh, okay, the kid is gonna go back to getting 3-year visas or something,
Hmm.
and being a long-term resident here. Sometimes that also could be a detriment. But I think a PR status was something which we certainly did face in 2019, wherein many universities were not welcoming of those students.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
I
Okay.
think I
So,
think Prem, let's be very clear out over here. I think the UK is very well organized, okay, but
hmm.
the basic premise is that their universities are getting funded because of these foreign international students. Okay,
Right.
that's why there is that incentive. But the funding from Japanese government to the Japanese universities is so high that it squashes any incentive for the Japanese universities to make that next effort to go and get students from outside. Who is
Yeah.
asking for those outside students? It is those companies who are saying like we don't have good labor, we don't have good people to work on
Hmm.
kind of the IT technologies, the AI, robotics, and stuff like that. They are shouting. But from a university perspective, they are getting their money from Japanese universities, very well funded, awesome infrastructure out over there, so they got nothing to complain, right? So should we
Sure.
be telling the Japanese government to cut down on their budgets? I don't know about that, but that is a structural problem
Yeah.
as to why
Yeah.
Japanese universities may not be as helpful or as interested in getting kind of international students or
Yeah.
gaikokujins in that sense, while UK is like, absolutely laying out the red carpet. The reason is like the budgeting process is very different.
Right. There's no particular business case for Japanese university, right? Like unless that is there, they wouldn't be doing that.
as
Got
of
it.
now as of now I don't see it. It's a
Yeah.
nice to have. Oh, we are
Yeah.
diversity and inclusion university, we got 2 3 gaikokujins from outside, done, check done. That's how.
Mm. Mm. That's it. Okay. I think then we covered India, Japan, UK. I think that's
Yeah,
where the
and
majority
same
of
for US. I mean,
US
US
also.
wise, you've got something called as SAT. Like, I mean, Scholastic Aptitude Test. Like SAT is something that was at least there in terms of US. Like you have that. They are saying like they're gonna retire the SAT system in a few years. I don't know how that's gonna work, but in US, the whole idea is like they've got a central way of doing that evaluation. So the SAT basically does that stuff for you, but at the end of the day, then on your own in terms of which all universities to apply. The good side is that you're not restricted to only 5 universities. You can apply to dozens of
All.
universities, but then
Yeah.
you have to go to each individual university and do that application. And it's not as kind of easy in terms of the overall application experience that we saw with UK. So it's evaluation central, but then application is divided. It's kind of balkanized in that sense. You have to go to
Got it.
individual universities to do that.
Got it. Okay. Great. Then I think, Manish, what we can do is like now admission procedure we have covered. For the fees and for the duration, I think we
Yeah,
can just focus on Manipal, your experience only,
yeah.
because that would be
Um,
kind of becoming. Sorry. Yeah.
so how much do I pay in Manipal at this point in time? I can tell you that the overall fee was somewhere at around I would say 6 lakh yen,
Okay.
which I don't know how much it
Per
translates
year,
into.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, 6 lakhs yen per year.
Okay.
Then I mean, for NRIs, they had a different way. Like they had something called as a scholarship. So if you get a
Okay.
CGPA of 8.5 in a particular academic year, then 20% of that is off. So I pay somewhere at around 5 lakh yen per year is something that I would say I pay at
Okay.
Manipal University.
Sorry. Graduation scholarship. Okay.
Yeah. And what I can certainly tell you is that it's a 3-year course that she's right now in. While the 4th year, if she opts to do it, she will basically be doing a laboratory research for
Hmm.
her 4th year. So that basically makes it BSc honors degree in biomedical sciences, which is something I wanted to very specifically tell you is that when you're looking at the postgrad options, many of the universities in the US ask for a 4 year degree. So it's always worthwhile to spend that additional 1 year and get a 4 year degree and not settle for a 3 year degree. It certainly will work out in the long term to make sure like your career prospects are not gonna get squashed just because it was a
Hmm.
3 year undergraduate
All
degree.
right.
So be very sure that you do a 4 year course wherever you go, whichever
Yeah.
stream you take.
Manish, what is this course? BSc in biomedical.
Biomedical, BS in biomedical.
BMS. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I
Mm.
mean, in today's day of pandemic and all of that stuff, I think drug discovery and all of these
Oh,
things are.
absolutely. I mean, and these
So,
are universal skills, actually. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And there are so many. I mean, and trust me, yeah. Here's one thing on a lighter side. So, see, I told you about like we were basically watching Crime Patrol, right? So, how does biomedical connect with Crime Patrol? So, you got
Forensics.
and forensics is part of that biomedical courses and stuff. And she's like, oh, probably I'm gonna be, doing something for the
Why?
forensics department. I said, like, I don't know about that. That's you to figure it
Why not?
out.
Why not? Okay, great. So that's about the fees and the duration, right? And I think you also touched upon the career pathways and also keep an eye on post graduation. Also, I think that's a good summary
I
of what
mean,
you have.
trust
Yeah,
me, trust me. I think India has surprised me in terms of the amount of openings and the amount of avenues that your kid gets exposed to. Say,
absolutely.
for example, next week there is a kind of a seminar that's going to be conducted in the University of Manipal, wherein top scientists in the biomedical field across all over India, they are going to come for a 4 day kind of event in the University of Manipal, and students who are above the CGPA of 8.5 have been allowed to socialize with those folks. And my daughter's gonna be speaking with all of those big shots from ISC Bangalore and IITs and stuff, sitting in Manipal, and she's gonna get that exposure. So I
That's
don't
really good.
think she would have got that kind of an exposure even in Japan if she would have got an admit, or we would
Abs-
have taken her down that route. Yeah.
No, that's really true.
It's
That's
it's
really
it's
good.
a very very different ecosystem
Mm.
is what I can certainly say. Like we should be not proud of, but we should certainly be cognizant of that. This is what's already happening in India. A lot of momentum. That's
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
Right. I think, and this is what's the importance of speaking with someone who has experienced this as a parent, right? Otherwise, this will never come in anyone's awareness that, okay, with this decision, what are you actually getting into, right?
Yes.
There are normally a very narrow approaches on, okay, is it India? Is it what university? And that's it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
not about that, right? It's
yeah,
quite
yeah,
beyond it.
absolutely. And trust me, I think if you got matter in you, I think you shouldn't be worried about going anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, I
exactly.
remember, like, I mean, I did my BE in mechanical engineering, but something, I mean, I told you about the concept of moment of truth, like something needs to fire you. And I think my moment of truth came in my final year in engineering when I went for a paper presentation to Bhabha Atomic Research Center, wherein I was talking about nuclear energy and how, kind of we should be optimizing our, pieces, not just with renewable energy sources, but also about nuclear energy. And I was discussing that kind of a thing with the top notch scientists. I mean, and I'm getting feedback from them, and that kind of just drives you, right? And there is so much amount of talent in India that sometimes we are blinded by the fact of UK and US, that we certainly don't know, like the Tare Zameen Par kind of a scenario wherein you got that kind of a talent in India itself,
Hmm.
which you can actually engage with. So I think
No,
that's
that's true.
something that I'm very very happy that Nupura is getting that kind of an exposure.
Great, great. Thank you. Okay, then I think then it's a good segue to now admission is done. She's
Interesting
already in.
topic that we are coming on. Interesting topic that we
Yeah,
are coming.
yeah. So I think this is the last section where we will be talking about how, as a parent and as kid, you adjusted, and after that, I think we'll go to the reflection and conclusion part then.
There are those kind of memes that come in, right? I mean, what you thought and what the reality is. Like, I mean, like when
Right.
people like think about like, oh, I'm going to go Japan, they basically talk about anime, Sakura, and all of that stuff. And then when they come here, they are just squashed in a Yamanote line, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reality that you basically face, right?
Or Tozai line.
Exactly. So line for
Yeah.
us, absolutely true.
Yes.
Yes, line.
I can tell you, we have got, you know, very different experiences of what we thought would be the case and what actually we ended up being in. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Let's quote 3 to 4 at least to
absolutely.
understand. Yes.
Absolutely. So, one thing is that India is the land of OTPs.
Ah,
I'm trying to say is like it's a one-time password economy.
yes.
And what I essentially mean is like when my wife landed in India with my daughter, and the reason my wife landed in India with my daughter was because it was the COVID times, so we couldn't just send our daughter to a far, kind of a destination all on her own. My wife, her mother did join her. Both of them have basically been in Japan for 24 years, right? Now, what does that mean? Is that we didn't even have an Indian mobile phone. We are based from Mumbai and Pune, so it's not even our native place, right? So we are in a completely different state, a completely different city, which we are experiencing for the first time. And if you need a local mobile phone, you need to have Aadhaar card. Without an Aadhaar card, no one's gonna even give you a phone line for that matter. And
Same here.
my wife fortunately had an Aadhaar card, but we never thought about getting an Aadhaar card for our daughter. And she doesn't have a Aadhaar card, and the address, her permanent address on her passport is basically Tokyo's address. So she can't even apply for an Aadhaar card. I mean, there is no way. I mean, there is no identity that she holds out over there. What do you do? I mean, just getting a new phone itself was proving to be such a big mess for us that then we had to, kind of work with one of her friends in the college who's a localite. We spoke to her father, who basically got us through a few of those pieces wherein were able to go to the local municipal corporation, apply for an Aadhaar card, get the right things registered with some lawyers' help and stuff like that. So it was a 7-day process to just get her a Aadhaar card, right?
Mm.
Today she's once you get the Aadhaar card, you are all good. You can basically get a HDFC account. You can do Google Pay. Then life is like kind of amazing. Like it's basically the digital penetration in India is so huge that the UPI system, like you can just scan a QR code and pay anything anywhere. You don't need to say I am a line pay or something like that we do in Japan. It's a universal pay system that they've got, and it's much more flexible. So once you got your pieces, yes, but adjusting to the new environment essentially means like we were a little bit less aware of what the ground situation is. Like we
Mm.
never knew, like for any small thing, whether you want to have a bank, for whether you want to basically do any of those transactions, everything was a OTP thing which required a mobile phone, and getting that was dependent on Aadhaar card. We were like,
Yeah.
oh my god. So that's
Ah,
something that I was
true.
like, kind of, if anybody is going to go to India, and if your kids are not yet in grade 11 or 12, make sure, like, at least as parents, get an Aadhaar card if you don't have one.
Absolutely. I think when you started the topic, I thought everyone in our ages we have Aadhaar card. But yes, Aadhaar card about the kids, I have also not thought about it. But I think that's a good one. Okay. Yes, that was one.
Secondly, which I can certainly quote is that so I talked about one, a negative experience, like, oh, we didn't know, like we had to be prepared. Now let me tell you about the other element which we sometimes think, like in India, things are, kind of very slow in terms of the service industry, right? So what I can certainly tell you is like maybe that's the case of overburdened metropolis cities of Mumbai and Delhi, wherein service industry is pretty slow sometimes. People don't do the work on the speed that you're usually kind of used to in Japan, right? But I think Manipal was a hugely amazing discovery for us. Being a smaller city, the infrastructure and the service industry is so very well organized, is what I can tell you in terms of getting a flat on rent. Basically, if the washing machine has broken down, the TV is not working, you call up and the guy is gonna be there in 20 to 25 minutes. I mean, that's like, seriously, do you get that speed of service in India? I had no idea. Other one is that, oh, the washing machine has broken down, and it's the days of the pandemic. Nobody's allowed to visit the society where my daughter is basically staying because it's social distancing timing. And she called up the Samsung customer center. They asked her to download an app. From that app, the camera starts. They completely do a self-service repair. They tell my daughter, open the screw, do this, change this plug, and it's done. So it's as smooth as that. So India has changed in terms of the service industry a lot.
Mhm.
And I think if you have got any concerns or any thoughts in terms of like should we basically look at India, yes, I think the service industry wise, at least our experience has been like India has changed a lot. I think we are absolutely okay with that kind of a situation now. You've
Great,
got
great.
Zomato, you've got Uber, you've got
Ah,
everything. I
absolutely.
think service industry wise, it's a lot reliable than what we are used to, is what I would say. So that's a good experience, is something that I believe.
True, true.
Now the third experience that I can tell you, and it's something to do with the overall friend circle that your kid starts going into. You can do everything and anything, but then there's always gonna be a culture shock in terms of how today's India thinks, and how Japan based kid who's never seen beyond Tokyo and the surroundings of here thinks. There is a vast difference in terms of how they think. The socially, we are much more active. Politically, things are much more polarized, and adjusting in that kind of an environment took some time for Nupura. She had to rethink how to basically work through those pieces. Whether those fault lines could be on religious matters, whether those fault lines could be on some economic matters, because there is disparity, right? There is disparity in terms of like there are people coming in from middle class, there are people coming in from the lower strata, there are people coming in from very very kind of well-to-do backgrounds. And I think adjusting in that sense, like what you say, how it actually is perceived by different people, was something that she had to learn in terms of understanding how
Mm,
perceptions can matter, how
mm,
subjectivity
mm.
in discussions can creep in, which is a
Right.
very good thing in terms of life skills. I think she's got those life skills, is what I can certainly say. Because in the early days, we did find our daughter complaining like she was able to find fault with every person that she met, but then she figured out that there was no right way of thinking. And I think that's what India basically does to you. It shows you that there could be so different ways of looking at one single situation, is that then you have to figure out like what you basically think is only just one side of the coin. There could be very different ways of how you
Mm,
can actually interpret that. So it's a
mm,
very very good learning experience, that I can tell you for sure. Is like diversity and inclusion is enforced in Japan, that should be a value that we should have, but it comes naturally in India. So I think that's something which I believe is a big plus point of going to India. That's for sure.
yeah,
And
yeah.
especially living in Japan, I think, it's being more homogeneous society, right? Even in professional world, like, the salarymen, they're all salarymen, right? Even a CEO looks like a salaryman.
Yeah,
Or there is not much difference between, employee levels. So it's a very homogeneous society, homogeneous way of thinking. The expectations are built as well in the
Mm,
same. Yeah, I mean, as
yes,
you like pointed out, yeah, India is a melting pot of different experiences and different
absolutely.
thoughts processes, and there is no right or wrong way of doing things. So that is a huge learning experience, definitely for kids and for
Yeah,
us also now, because whenever we go back to India, it's, oh, this is how people are thinking. They're thinking two steps ahead. What will happen? So yeah,
yes,
that's
yes,
good.
yes, yes.
right.
Certainly, certainly.
Great.
So I think,
I think those were amazing experiences from different perspectives, right? One was from more on the logistics side, right? How things are changing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
second is
absolutely.
like what kind of support systems in terms of services have changed a lot. And then,
Yes,
yes, I think for our kids who have a different environment here, and exposure towards how the other, like this comes as default in Indian discussions, right?
Agreed, agreed.
Like the religion, economy, the politics, the backgrounds of people. There are different state stories and all. That will
Absolutely.
not come so easily to our kids. I think that is also an amazing learning. That's for sure.
And you know what I mean? What's the difference that I've seen is like I remember like after finishing her grade 12 exams, she had to go from Nishikasai to Myoden, and she got onto a Tozai line on the opposite direction. And then we had to call her because we were tracking her on the Find My iPhone. We said like, "Why are you in Toyocho?" And she's like, "Oh, did I go to the wrong way?" That was what you know. And then she had to go back, and that was a silly mistake. One-time mistake is what I can say. But today, just a year down the line, she's basically going from Manipal in a Uber to Mangalore Airport. From Mangalore Airport, she's flying over to Mumbai. From there, she's going to my parents' home all by herself. And I was like, when did all of that happen? I mean, like that independent nature was something like it's oh okay. I mean, I feel a little bit more comfortable in having her call the shots in many of the other matters that we go through. So
True,
it's
true.
very very interesting thing is what I've seen.
Great, great. Thank you, Manish, on that one. So I think let's move to reflections, learning till now. I think you have covered a lot of points in this. If there are some specific points to bring in here, or we can move to the next one, which is like suggestion to parents and kids. Up to you.
Um,
Like,
yeah, one thing on reflections is what I mean, like it's a kind of a matome or like just trying to
yeah,
conclude how I see this. I
yeah.
think I mean, like I'm a marketer, man. I mean, like I do help Adobe with its digital marketing and stuff. And I mean, I work with customers on a day-to-day basis talking about marketing. So I'm absolutely kind of up and running in terms of understanding the social trends. So the social trend of the smartphone economy and the social media, we are moving from a V economy, that's like WE, to a me economy. Like the me is more important than the we. Okay, I
Mm,
think that's where kind of people look for personalized experiences and
mm,
this and that
mm,
stuff. And it goes exactly opposite of what Tarak Mehta was saying. Like it's about asli maza sabke saath aata hai. So it's about the we, not the me, right? So what I can tell you is that when you actually send your kid to you know a faraway economy like a UK,
mm,
what you're essentially trying to create in your kid is the independence that they are looking at. It's about creating individuals. It's about creating individual personalities who value the me economy more. Okay,
mm,
but the fact is like what I can look in the backdrop is that my wife going and helping my kid out and being with her when it mattered the most, we are trying to give a perspective that you are not just an we don't want to have you be an independent individual. We want you to be a dependable individual. So a dependability and independent are two different elements. Like you could be independent but still be a dependable person. So how does the dependability come in is when you see a society in India, which is so very, torn between different economic sides, the political sides, and all of that stuff, which kind of brings a little bit of appreciation for the other's point of view. So, am I an independent person or am I a dependable person? I think that is what, in hindsight, I can say like India builds some dependability in you. I think that's how I look at it. Like, what's the benefit of going to India? You could be independent, but you would still be a dependable citizen. I think that's something that I would try to
mm.
paraphrase. I'm not trying to give some gyan, but this is something that I
No,
feel like it's built that kind of a life skill in her is what I would look at.
no, it's a view, right? Like as we said, right? There is no right and wrong here,
Exactly, exactly,
right?
exactly, exactly.
It's a view for sure. Like,
Uh,
and it can
uh,
be your view. And if someone want to agree, you agree. If you don't want,
yeah,
have your own views. No worries.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Got it, got it. But I think this is a good way how you think, right? At least that helps
Yes,
us to understand how you are seeing this experience. So I think that is
absolutely.
a good paraphrase and get a good
Sure,
summary in a whole, right? We to me. Yeah, that's really good.
sure.
Okay, thank you. And then I think we move to the last section. Like you have already kind of given a lot of tips and kind of suggestions already. But if something you have missed out, or you want to summarize it in a way towards the parents, towards the kids, that would be a good sum up of.
What I would say is that if you choose to basically look at the multiple options that are there in today's world, I think the education industry is ripe for disruption. I think
Hmm.
COVID has made sure that it has kind of flattened the overall hierarchy in terms of how
Hmm.
universities have been thinking. So, what I can tell you one thing is that my daughter is right now studying in the University of Manipal. She's
Hmm.
occasionally doing in-person courses with IIT Hyderabad, and she's doing an online course with the John Hopkins Institute in the US over Udemy. So you can actually sit anywhere in the world today and do anything that you want if you are really passionate about what you want to really learn. So I
Hmm.
think we should not only look at physical locations going forth. I think it's also important to check out the online offerings because they will add a lot of value to the overall portfolio of the kid when they start to make their professional moves post their undergraduate courses, right? So I think it's a mix that you have to look at. What I can basically do as part of my curriculum, what I can do as part of the social available events, seminars, and all of that stuff, and what I can do online in terms of engaging far away universities, which could have much more better and other paradigms to offer to me, which I cannot certainly cover by going to every other university. It's all available on an online format. So I think it's using all of these three mediums, your own, your social, and in the far away through online. I think it should be a combination of all the three. So
True.
I think
True.
whether you choose, Japan or US, UK, or India, I think I don't see any good or bad option. I think every option is good. If the passion's there, the kid will go through.
Great, great. Yes, I think that's a good way. I think, and it goes towards both directions, right? For the parents also to think that, okay, I mean, there are chances like, right, what you have thought about, you'll get into that university, we are not getting it. But even if you don't get it, there are, like, as you said, the social part is there, the online part is there, and you can really club your whole education in a way that you still get what you actually started to actually go towards, right? Got it.
Yes,
Got it. Thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you. Anything else, Makran, you want to ask?
I think yeah, I'm good. Just one thing in terms of the postgraduate options, would you be considering more India option going forward? Because, as a continuation from graduation, or, trying to give a different new exposure for post-graduation as she completes her
Um,
graduation.
the way
So,
I think about it is that what essentially differentiates undergraduate and postgraduate, and given the fact that I'm right now in discussions with my daughter in terms of like, what about the post graduation? Is she looking at it? Does she want to do a career and get into the job market immediately? So, discussing with her, what I realize is that the essential thing which differentiates an undergraduate and a postgraduate is that undergraduate is a foundation block. It basically builds some foundation for you on which to
mm,
work on. But post graduation is completely in terms of finally where you see yourself. Okay, what kind of research do you want to get into? What kind of field do you want to specialize as you move ahead on? And that is location agnostic. Tomorrow there could be something spectacular in terms of drug discovery happening in Bangladesh or any other country for that matter. What if your daughter chooses to go there? I mean, but that's how life should be, right? I mean, like then it's not about like location dependency of like, oh, I need to be in New York and or I need to be in the UK, I need to be in London. I think it's all about then discovering your life. So I think the independence is given to the kid who is not anyways above 18 years of age. So it's like they are like adults now, so they can take charge of the choices that they want to make from here on. If as a parent I have to think, I would love that she comes back to Japan so that
mm,
I get to see her once in a while every month or so. But then that's just wishful thinking for the parents because we basically, came all the way from India, and our parents also probably might be thinking the same. Like we should be paying them a visit
yeah,
once in a while, right? So I think that's
yeah,
just parents, expectation. But I think the moment she walked out of the house and went over for her career, I think that emptiness syndrome is something that shouldn't pull the kid back. You shouldn't try to again try to populate the nest by asking your daughter or somebody to come back. I think it's best left to what they want to do with their career. If that takes her to the UK for postgrad course, so be it. If she decides to come back to the Japan for a particular reason, well, that's what it is. At the same time,
Right.
if she says like I want to continue and I want to do something in India, I mean, yeah, why not? I think that's the way I
Hmm.
would look at it.
Hmm. Understood. Okay.
वो कैसा है ना कि there are things like it's a circle of influence or circle of concern. When the kid is not yet mature, it's a circle of influence that a parent usually has. But
Mhm.
now it's out of our circle of influence. It's just the parental circle of concern that we are in. So doesn't help. So let go. It's like Finding Nemo, na? After a while, the fish has to let go the kid, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it has to allow the kid to discover the world by itself. So that's how I look at it.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. I think then,
And Makaran, at least you
oh,
should have
sorry.
told me in advance that you're going to ask me the question. I would have prepared well in advance.
No, I think
Uh,
this is
no,
all about
I
it,
think
right?
it's just a flow of discussions, I
All right.
think. So there was no pre-planned questions in mind. So just as a
Absolutely.
flow, it happens. Yeah.
Understood. No
So
worries. No
yeah,
worries.
just
Yeah.
a discussion.
Yeah.
Great.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I think that brings us to the closing part of this discussion. I think thank you, Manish, for your time and sharing of this valuable experience, insights, the anecdotes you shared with the greater part of this expat community. I mean, in future, we also plan to share experiences from parents who have opted for other countries and universities for other courses. So, what we would just try to tell our viewers is like remain subscribed to this channel for this similar further videos which are useful for your life in Japan. I mean, if you have any comments, queries, or doubts, feel free to drop a comment in the comment box. Me and Magran will try to reply as far as possible. If the questions are towards Manish, I will request Manish to help us out in those. Okay, till we meet next time. Thank you and bye bye. Any last words from Manish? Parting
No,
words?
I think I can only say in parting that I know about a survey that was done in individuals who are in their 70s and 80s, and it was asked them like, what was the most happy time in your life? And it was the time when you were the most irritated. And they always quote like when it was about the kids being in home and when they left. So I think after
Ah,
we always love our kids to have them grow up as fast as possible. We go through the grind of our careers and the family life, right? But at 70s and 80s people say like actually that was the most happy time that they spent in their life. So with all due respect to everyone's busy career schedules, trust me, you're gonna love this when you're gonna look at it in hindsight, when all those dots will basically connect for the journey that you're looking for your kid. So enjoy the ride, even though it's a pretty interesting one with its own ups and downs.
absolutely. Thank you. Makran, anything from your side before we leave?
Yes, I mean, so this session was basically focusing on, Nupura's experience in India, but I think Manish has covered a lot here, a lot of ground, not just in India, but also what could be, overall pros and cons for other countries as well, or, study options, graduations, as well as post graduations in UK or US. So I think it's a very holistic discussion, and I think we had fun.
I
So
think for the parents who are seriously looking for how to get into this thought process, I mean, if they watch this video from start to end, I think Manish has given enough information to get into that mindset, what parents should think, what kids have to do. Now, I think up to everyone to go through this, definitely. We'll also try to summarize it separately later. Okay.
Thanks,
Thank,
Prem. Thanks,
thank you very
Makran.
much,
Good to
Manish.
meet you
you.
guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Manish, you were talking about that online resource in India, which was useful to you as parent and student. So maybe you want to talk more about that.
Yeah, sure, Prem. I think even when you buy a thing as simple as a USB desk, you usually look for not just going to Amazon and buying it straight off, but you look at the customer reviews and stuff, right? So I think same goes when you are trying to consider, kind of which university, which location, which kind of courses and stuff. And it's sometimes it's a very difficult thing if you want to go to individual websites of every university and try to figure that out, and you don't even get a comparative model out over there. You don't really get the real world inputs, and you need a third party kind of a portal which can kind of give you those things at one single location. And I believe, like, I myself did a lot of searching in terms of using the words like University of Manipal and the life sciences courses, and going to Quora and those kind of sites. But more than, I think, Quora, I believe, like, the site which helped not just me but my wife, who was doing a lot of digging of information, and also for my daughter, who was vetting the right stuff in terms of, like, is she picking up the right courses. I think we are not trying to promote any portal here, but I can tell you for sure is that this is one portal which I would say, like, if you are going to consider India as one of the choices where you want to send your kid to, you might want to look at this resource called as shiksha.com. Whether you want to do your engineering, whether you want to do your medical, if you want to go beyond those things of design studies or anything else that you can think about, right up to even your post graduations, I think this is one of the portals which has got everything in terms of self-service content. But it's not just the self-service content side of the equation, but you can basically say, like, I choose something like a mechanical engineering
Yeah.
course, and then you could actually select a college, and you can actually look at real people who have kind of painstakingly kind of put up a lot of content in terms of how they basically have rated these kind of courses and these colleges. There's even kind of a chat button of sorts which can help you directly post your questions, and then what we know for sure is, like, it's like within an hour, or maybe within a few couple hours, you immediately get a lot of responses for your queries. And I think that's a very living experience that you can have, that there is always somebody who can come back with some answers for you. So I would say, like, shiksha.com is one very, very important kind of source that we were using right even in the days of 2019. So it's come a long way is what I can say.
Great, great. Maybe you want to show it like popular colleges if you want to see. Looks like there's a ready list, right?
Exactly. So it
Wow.
can give you all the list ups. It will give you with the rankings and stuff. It will give you, to a certain extent, also things like what are the procedures for admitting in, what's the likelihood of you getting into that kind of university. You can scroll on your stuff like, okay, my fee structure cannot be more than 10 lakhs, or whatever your criterias would be. And getting every brochure at one single location is something that I certainly know for sure is a
Nice.
very, very good resource that you can make use of. And it works
Absolutely.
even very nicely on your smartphone. So I think, yeah, maybe just type in shiksha.com, and yeah, I think you should be ready to go with a lot of
Right.
content. Rather, it would be a little bit overwhelming is what I can say.
Absolutely. No, but this is really good. Like the one you were talking about, Manish, earlier in the same page, or the earlier page, the same page. No, this
Yeah,
one. If you go down, it is showing
yeah,
this. Of course, it's showing fees. It's showing median salary. What's the ranking
yeah,
of it?
yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
I think getting browser at one place, this itself,
Yeah,
this one feature itself is, I think, valuable, quite valuable itself, right? Oh,
absolutely.
that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, look at it, like, you can enter your
Hmm.
JE ranks, you can, look
Hmm.
at predict for other exams, predict results, like how likely are you to get into that college and stuff. So it's it at least gives you something directionally, right? I mean, it may
Absolutely.
not be the factor for decisions, but at least it gives you a direction, like, am I heading in the right
Hmm.
direction in terms of what I could be looking out for? So
Mhm.
this is something that I think you should certainly look for. I think
Yeah.
what I think I understand, it's been created by the the founders of Naukri.com. So I think we IT guys know for sure the job portal in India,
Absolutely.
and I think they are supporting it right from the get go of where our kids are gonna get their education and stuff. I think it's a natural progression that they would put up something like that. So it's a good portal, something which has certainly helped me personally a lot in terms of understanding which options to go for.
Great, great. Thank you, Manish. Manish, just for completeness of this video, this
Yeah, yeah,
part, if you can go to, I saw that there are overseas colleges also
yep,
listed.
yep, yep.
Yeah,
Called
study
yeah,
abroad, right? So I think this is also, I mean, from Indian perspective, if you're looking at outside
yes,
world,
yes.
there is also, say, for example, I don't know, we have Japan here, but let's see New Zealand.
Say for example, UK
UK,
for that.
let's say. Yeah, let's say UK. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, there are brochures for those colleges as well overseas.
yes,
My
yes, yes,
gosh,
yes, yes,
that's
yes.
really helpful.
But what I would certainly say is that although it's got details on those universities in the UK and stuff, I believe like the similar portal which I earlier kind of said in the video of the UCAS. I think
UCAS,
the
yeah.
UCAS system is also equally good. I think
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
tends to have like more up to date information out over there. So UCAS is one good location where
Right.
you can find a similar portal for what you want to do with the UK side of your discussion. So you
Got
can
it.
certainly use that. But yeah, you are right. I mean, as I said, like for US, I think it's still very, you need to go to individual websites. Probably, I'm not sure. I've not used the US side of the equation here on shiksha.org. But for study abroad, maybe even if you want to look at study in US, maybe you've got some good resources.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good these resources are. I've not used them myself,
Yeah,
but yeah, it
definitely.
seems to be like a lot many inputs at one single location, which certainly is helpful for sure. Yeah,
I
just
can also see they have given links to for each college also, international student website for each, right? So
yes, yes,
definitely this can be an entry point, and then you
exactly,
can start
exactly.
going. Okay, looks like okay. Oh,
Yeah,
but this looks like a valid site.
yep.
Yeah,
It is
UCLA. Okay,
UCLA. Yeah, exactly.
okay, great.
Yep.
Great. I
Nice.
think this is kind of can be a very good start both for parents and for students, at least who want to see India as their destination place for this thing for studies. I think they can start from here, and from there, like of course, start from India, and if they want to explore abroad from there, also that is also a
That's true.
way. But
That's
India
true.
itself, I think that was a clear thing. Like, what's the ranking of the college? JE ranking is also being kind of considered,
Yeah,
and it's kind of AI is being used. It's like an intelligence, right? This
exactly,
is what we want to use, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly,
great.
exactly.
So
Okay,
one feature I thought was, the description about the course is also mentioned there. So
Yep.
which is, I think, excellent, for the student as well as the parents,
yeah,
because the students, if they are confused which course to take, or, they just go with popular
Contents and stuff. Yeah.
content, like their friends are choosing some course, so they want to take it, or they are not still sure. But I think they can go to that website and
Yeah.
just go through
Yeah.
what exactly is the content of the course. So I think which is very good, rather
Yeah.
than going to Google and just searching it, randomly. So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's excellent resource, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
cool.
I mean like this may you need not include in the video, but the whole idea is like I heard about a few surveys coming from Google which says like youngsters these days, and I don't think it's just the youngsters, but in general like the digital natives of today, they have reduced the search of Google. I mean they don't search on Google as much as they do inside Instagram or inside Twitter or
Or
inside different
Facebook,
apps,
whatever.
right? So whatever you need to search from a college perspective, you would actually be better off searching inside shiksha.com rather than searching flat on Google, because that can actually basically be too divergent, right? I mean,
Right.
drilling down from Google is a big task, but drilling down inside shiksha.com is much more efficient, is what I believe. So I think it speaks too much in terms of what Google is facing. Like people are no more searching inside Google, but they are searching in individual portals or apps. I think that's the differentiator
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
I think that's the value these sites are actually creating, right? They are becoming specialist in one thing which Google has no way it can get into that details, and the
Yep.
way it's formatted, right? I mean, the way we want to see the information, right? And that's
Exactly.
more important. I mean, for us, like in our context, we are looking for education, thought process, and information related to that, having brochure, fees, or for that matter, the salary also. I don't know. It's a bit far-fetched though, but it's okay. But good to see at one place.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Mm.
Absolutely.
okay.